Buddy. Welcome back to another episode of Mindful Chaos. This is your co host, Justin. And this episode, I will share a bit about my personal story and how this project came about. So, ready to get ready and strap in. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And as you can see, the title I put down is how near death experiences are the best thing that happened to me in my life. So to give a bit of context, so I grew up in Taiwan, and the Taiwan education is always very, I guess, systematic and not very. They don't encourage individual thinking, and it's always about memorizing, taking tests, conform, don't be different, don't ask questions. So I always felt quite, I guess, unfulfilled because I was always the kid that asked why. And so I didn't really resonate with the system or the education system growing up in Taiwan. Fast forward to middle school, high school. In Taiwan, you had to take a placement exam to be placed in the high school in Taiwan. And I scored 98 out of 99. So I got placed in the second best high school. And I actually went to the high school for a month, but I was so unfulfilled that I felt like there's something that had to change. And one thing that actually inspired me or kind of pushed me to have a different type of environment was after middle school, ninth grade, I did a solo travel trip to the US because I scored quite good. I had some money saved up from the Chinese New Year lucky money. And I felt a sense of freedom I had by myself at the age of 15, just traveling in the U.S. And I stayed with my uncle. I was in Seattle, biking around the city, going to different places. So when I came back and started a high school in Taiwan, I didn't feel fulfilled. And I just felt like it was the same shit over again. Had to go to cram school. If some of you guys watch like Korean drama or like Japanese TV shows, it's all like study in groups, conform, don't ask questions, sit down, just do your thing. And they don't encourage asking why. So I was so fed up with it that I was negotiating with my dad that, dude, I had to do something and I cannot be in Taiwan anymore. So I had to negotiate with my dad that, dude, just let me study in the States. But given my dad's like upbringing, he grew up with nothing. So for him to kind of commit or even say like, okay, I'm going to pay like 20, 30,000 US dollars a year to send my kid or son to some private school, God knows where, that was so far off from his imagination, right? But my mom somehow believed that the kids were always going to study abroad. And long story short, negotiated with my dad for like 2 weeks. I ended up signing some contract with him, saying I'll borrow money from him, and off I go. I went to Vermont. So I studied in high school in Vermont, and I learned that was actually a very cool experience because I get to live very different than how I was raised in Taiwan. I was started skiing. I was on the ski team. I started golfing. I was close to nature. The town that I was in had 5,000 people. The middle school I went to in Taipei has 3,000 kids. So imagine how rural this part is. But I started to learn about different culture. I actually hang out with a bunch of Vermont mountain people. I see them hunting and also snowmobiling. So it was a very fond experience and memory that I had in Vermont. And then fast forward, I went to college in Boston. And this is when kind of things started in terms of the addiction or let's say party behavior that I shared in the other episodes talking about addiction. So during those times, because of the environment that I was in, like it was just so normal that everybody was drinking, partying the whole time, smoking, to a point that I was actually having episodes. So I didn't know my dad's side had heart disease, and my dad didn't tell me. So when I was in, let's say, college or even high school, over drinking and smoking so much, I was having episodes without me knowing it. Episodes meaning like super fast heart rate. Sometimes the heart rate skips. There's like a passed out feeling. It just fucked up. Like really not responsible for my own body. And so it was not responsible, like I was not responsible for my behavior, and because everybody's doing it, so I thought it was normal. And again, this was in 2010. I was last year in college. I was doing an exchange program at BU with Shanghai Fudan. And Fudan is one of the best schools. But during 2010, Shanghai had such bad air pollution that I can vividly felt it. I couldn't breathe well, and I was smoking cigarettes at the time. I was also drinking because that was the first time I was in Shanghai. It was like the golden period of like Shanghai when it was just like up and coming. And it was kind of lawless in some way because I remember we were buying drugs on the streets and just like tipping off people, and the police didn't care. And I moved to Shanghai in 2010 right after graduation for work. And this was actually quite trippy because I remember at 2000, I did not go to college graduation in 2011 because my dad was in the intensive care unit for 2 weeks, and I had to fly back. Graduation was on May 22nd, and I remember I was back home by May 5th, and my dad were already in intensive care in the ER for 2 weeks. He was on the verge of dying because his heart valve didn't close. And he always had that congenital disease, but he didn't share it with us. And when I saw him, I was like, oh shit, something like this is fucking some serious stuff. I might lose my dad like today. So the doctor had to ask families permission. Do we operate? What are the chances? Yada, yada. And he having the heart surgery, he actually had an open heart surgery to replace his valve. I remember it's a car, like an artificial valve made of from cow. Super interesting. But then gladly he survived, he recovered, and then I moved to Shanghai for work. And I was continuing the same lifestyle. The business that I'm in is in supply chain. So if any of you know or have been to China dealing with factories, it's very relationship driven, and it's also very, I guess, I wouldn't say labor class, but definitely more local, right? So if the factory owners want you to kind of drink, you have to drink with them. You always have like fucking big dinners. A lot of time they don't even finish the food. They'll just make you drink baijiu until like one of it gets like really drunk. And I felt, or at least my interpretation, even as a Taiwanese/Chinese, is that people do want to see your state when you're intoxicated to see if they trust you to do business with you, right? And like I was smoking cigarette. If they ask you to smoke cigarette, or they give like politely, they'll give you cigarette first, so you can smoke, and then we smoke together. And throughout this whole, let's say, a year and a half of lifestyle, something kind of went wrong. So one night, this was my first time like I was really close to like a state of like, dude, I might be fucking dead. And I was eating alone and near the office at around like 7 o'clock, and had this weirdest sensation I never felt. It was through my neck, to my back, and also to the spine and to the left hand. And all of a sudden, you can feel like a constrictive feeling on the heart, that it has a very distinct sensation of the tightness and how it's tingling throughout your arm and also through your fingertips. And the heart rate started to pound very fast to a point that I couldn't breathe. I was about to pass out, and also skips a heartbeat. So that was the time I was like, fuck, I need to go to hospitals. This is the time that I had the sensation of feeling like so uncomfortable with my chest that I couldn't breathe. Then I had to go to the hospital, and the cab wouldn't even take me there because I was on the verge of passing out. So I called my mom. I was like, yo, something's very wrong. I might need to fly back, but I don't know how that works. So she booked a flight right away to pick me up. Like the earliest flight was the next day, 10 a.m. And luckily enough, my manager / my friend, and thanks to you, Tang Hong, really literally saved my life. Drove me to the hospital. We stayed in the ER. They trying to basically stabilize me and put some drugs, but they didn't know what drugs to put because they cannot figure it out. It was like 1 a.m. at night at that time. And following the next day, I basically booked the flying back home. And what was, I guess, trippy was or frustrating was that they couldn't even figure out what the heart condition was, because for heart condition to happen, it has to happen on the spot and they detect it on the spot. And it took me a month to do all the tests and checkups to trying to find out what happened to me in with my heart condition. And that really shook me to a point that, dude, like I was thinking that, dude, I'm only 20 something. I just got this ticket. I want to start playing in this game of life, but I could be fucking gone, because that was the sensation or experience I never had before. So from that on, like I was meditating heavily, actually to kind of backwards a bit. When I was feeling like episodes or like a discomfort during 2010-ish, I actually started meditating for hours for the point, because the purpose was just trying to calm down my heart rate. But then it didn't really work. I didn't know what I was doing. So I started reading a lot of books, and like what I listened to a lot of fucking Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, like Tara Brach, and even like Eckhart Tolle, just trying to calm myself down. And it did help to some extent, but it still felt something was off, right? So again, fast forward to the heart attack in China that I almost died, to having the heart surgery. And what was funny was during the heart surgery, it took them a month, more than a month, to try to figure out what was wrong. And the heart surgery, it's called catheter. They have to go in through artery and go through the crotches to kind of basically burn the nerves in the heart, because the heart is basically going like nuts, right? Imagine there's extra wires or some kind of wire goes off in the engine. They have to kind of fix the wire. And I had to stay awake. And that was the most horrible feeling one can experience. And I remember listening to Three Little Birds by Bob Marley right before the surgery, that I was just telling everything is going to be okay. So how does this experience relate to what I'm sharing? Or why are we doing this project, right? So number one is mindfulness. Like I realized to a point, because throughout that period of time, I was meditating at least 1 hour to 3 hour in duration per day. It would be in morning, middle of the day, at nighttime, just to trying to calm myself down. And it did help a lot. I start to go to Buddhist temples, trying to do activities that kind of calms me. I switch up completely my diet. I looked into a bunch of stuff. I look into allergies. You actually can have like a food allergy and inflammations just from what you eat. So I didn't know about that. I was eating basically steamed vegetable and mackerel and rice and chicken for a whole year. I wasn't eating any like dairy, no gluten, no fried stuff. And that really, because I never grew up living that kind of lifestyle, but this experience propelled me to change. And this change made me see what was possible in the other end, even though my health condition wasn't at its peak. But because I was eating so clean and doing these mindfulness practices, I start to see the benefit and possibility of different ways of living. So how does this relate to this podcast that I want to, or this movement that we're building to kind of share with the world? If again, I want to emphasize, Mindful Chaos is the mission is to build a multicultural global community that we can help you find peace, discover yourself, and live better, right? And nowadays it's very hard. I realized at the time I was so busy chasing whatever I thought I needed to chase without asking why. And even though I was engaging in these activities and behaviors, there were no peace in myself. And when I was having these health issues that propelled me to change behaviors and help and kind of made me start meditating. Made me meditating and made me realize that what was possible, and there is a quiet space in the mind And one thing I really, explored was there's a saying called between stimulus and response, there lies a space. And within that space is where you find peace and power, right? So somebody can say or do very, very horrible things, and you can react right away. Or you can just pause and reflect and kind of decide what you want to do or even think. And by being more mindful and practicing these kind of meditation practices, it helped me understand that space even more. And I felt that the longer that space can extend and the more calmness that I can kind of be in. So that was one reason why from my near-death experience, the first one, the heart attack, made me kind of engage in these kind of mindfulness / meditative practice, different lifestyle changes. And then I start to kind of distill things that I didn't expect it or was even knew possible in the first place. And the second near-death experience I want to share was a couple years back. So I had these kind of immune system issues that I still trying to find out. Was I'm allergic to cold if it was done in a very abrupt way. If I just jump in cold water, or if I do cold showers, I get these like cold rashes to a point that I'll have allergic response. And I have had allergic responses before from being stung by a bee. Some people can say like, your immune system just got out of whack, maybe. So I was surfing in a northern part of Taiwan, and it was early in the morning, at like 7 a.m., and I was surfing, didn't eat anything. The water, I recall, was actually pretty cold, and I was with my friend Hank, and halfway through the surf, like it was a bright sunny day, but my vision kind of turned a bit gray and dark, and something in I guess my chest was telling me like, dude, fucking get back to the shore. Like something's off. You have to get back to the shore. You have to get back to the shore. And I think now, like, I really believe in guardian angels, and some people probably have multiple ones. And God, like, I think I have a couple that really looks after me, that I was able to caught a wave, and I was able to ride the wave all the way to the shore, not to the shore where you can stand on, but I would at least it was to like knee deep water level. But I just collapsed on the spot. And luckily enough, somebody was next to me. So I don't remember much because I think he said he pulled me out and I was just on the side, like passed out. He just kept slapping my face, telling me, it's like, yo, what's your name? What's your name? Where are you? And I was belligerent. Like, I don't know what happened. I just fucking surfed, crashed. And looking back now, like if I didn't have that intuition telling me that I have to get back on shore, if I wasn't lucky enough to just caught a wave, I probably would not be speaking to you right here. I'll probably be gone in the ocean in northern Taiwan. So what does that experience tells me? These two near-death experiences told me that, life is actually very unpredictable and impermanent. One second you think you're okay, God forbid, like you might be gone the next day. So why don't I do something meaningful to me or for me, and perhaps by doing that I can better myself and even share my lessons and experiences to people who can kind of be benefit from it. And again, I'm not saying I'm better or I know more than any one of you, but I'm just trying to document what I'm learning and what have I learned that this could be benefit to everybody. So to kind of give people some overview what we're doing for the project, there are many in the pipeline. So I want to give some status updates. Like right now, we're producing this YouTube show. And we'll have guests. We'll do some of the different formats that we just share our own experiences, some of the vlogging style and travels, and some of the cool things that we found. We're also doing a newsletter coming up next month. And we have also Mindful Sundays that we're going to be throwing every Sunday in Mexico City. And we also going to have a monthly salon that's like pretty interesting, but I want to keep that more a bit of a secret for followers to kind of keep keep in the loop. And my current life update is I'm going to be in Mexico City until end of the year, and I'm looking forward to kind of talk to more like-minded people, or even people that resonates with the mission that we're trying to build. So if anybody is interested, please send us an email or leave a comment of if you know anybody interested who would like to be on the show. We're super open to talk to them or go to their locations. And my current lifestyle choices is like, I don't really need anything. Like I don't feel compelled to party or do drugs. And I'm very happy about the state that I'm in now. And it's very flowy. I learned how to trust my intuition more while balancing with like logic and how. So now I'm more comfortable in my intuition, and also cultivating the present state awareness through the practices that we share. Journaling is one, mindfulness practice is one. I also highly recommend, let's say, cold plunge or like sauna or some kind of physical extremities or contrast or exercise. And also, of course, lastly is definitely do deal with the diet. Like, don't eat too many processed foods and try to eat food just in its raw form. And yeah, and if there's any, I guess, questions or experiences that you'd like to share, please do feel free to kind of pin us on Instagram or any social platforms. And I hope the story or my experience can give you some lessons and you find value in it. And don't forget, stay mindful.